Good morning. Good to see you guys, or good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, depends. My name's Carneros. I'm here from Playable Worlds, and we're going to talk about Stars Reach with our friend Rod Haza. Rod, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been an interesting morning as we got started with our playtest today, so it's good to be here.
I see you're not alone either, although some of the folks might not see that on camera. But you can introduce him or her later. Because we know, we've worked together before, and we know that cat's going to be all over your keyboard in a minute.
Yeah, I've
Good
got
to
him
have you
sleeping off to
here.
the side. Good to be here.
So, how long have you been with Playable Worlds, and what is your role?
What am I going on? 4 years now that I've been with Playable Worlds now. I'm
Yeah,
currently a producer with the company. So I produce things, which is always a good question. What does a producer do? I wish I could actually answer that question. I don't know if I can, but I will do my best. Pretty much we're there as to wear many different hats and take care of anything that needs to come up and solve uh, problems and find solutions for those problems as much as possible. I might not actually fix the problem, but I'll find somebody that will do it for me.
yep, yep. And uh, is this your first game company you worked at?
No, before this, I worked with Sony Online Entertainment. I was there for many, many years, through everywhere from EverQuest all the way on to the point where they moved off to Daybreak, and that's when I broke with the company at that point.
Yep. And you and I overlapped there. I was there for 6 years myself. Nice. Okay. And So I know what you do, but these guys, also the game testers who've been playing, at least the ones who get on voice comms and hear what's going on. Some people come and play test and just play on their own, don't put their headset on, don't pay any attention to what the devs are telling them to test or anything. But the ones that do all know who you are. You're famous among the testers.
I don't know if I'd go
Tell
as
us about
famous.
what you do with the testers and what a play test is like.
Well, I cover a couple different aspects there. One, I'm there as well, not really a face of the community necessarily, but I'm there as a voice of oftentimes in Discord. I'm there to kind of help out, assist, kind of help promote what our product is and what we're actually going to be becoming, answer questions. I also spend time doing some of the tech support around it, some of the customer service around it. And then in game itself, I also help facilitate a lot of the testing that we do. I'll develop some of the test plans that we're going to do and how we're going to do it and what particular things we'd like to focus on for our tests.
Excellent. And the test we're running, the current build that we're testing right now has a name. In fact, I think they've all had a name so far. And this one is called Seasons, Skies, and Public Events. So that's pretty clear what kinds of things we're testing. I noticed the sky here is a magenta red color. Um, why is that?
Well, one of the things we want to certainly focus on with our particular product is that we've got many different planets. We have them looking very different. They act very different depending upon the sim. So the idea that we're going for with the launch is we're going to have not only different looks and feels to the planets, you'll have different vegetation on them, different creatures on them. The particular aspects of the planet itself may be different. We may have different levels of gravity, and different types of atmospheres for it so that you may have to interact with it differently. And we're trying to visually show those kind of things on the planets themselves. Some of the things that you'll see, as you're looking at the gameplay there, you're going to see not only the colors look a little different, the skyboxes look different. You're going to see various different terrain that, because of the lighting, affects it and makes them look different. The neat thing with the particular planet you're looking at here, for the testers that have been around a long time, is originally this looked like a desert planet that looked very much like a savanna, somewhere you go on Earth. And then just by changing the lighting and changing that skybox, we drastically changed it so it almost has that Mars feeling to it now. And that's some of the randomness that we're going to be able to provide to the
Yeah,
game.
a little bit Martian. You're right. The angry red planet. I agree. Okay. Um, what do we need? When is our next build going to come? A different build, one that's
Uh,
not season skies and public events.
that is a great question. Uh, I wish I actually knew the answer to that. We're currently working on it right now. So we're hoping to have it published out soon. Our goal was actually to have one by Saturday, and we're hoping, our fingers crossed, we
Okay.
may actually still make that. But there is a possibility that if we find any devastating bugs or anything like that, that we may not be able to hit it. So we'll see where that ends up falling. But that's
Okay.
our next one that we're planning. Should be then. If not by Saturday, it'll be early next week. We'll get it out.
All right. How can the testers help? Cross their fingers, light a grocery store candle. Is there anything they can
All of
do?
which helps. Uh,
Okay.
I mainly just the big thing that helps us right now, not necessarily with that build, but is getting the word out on our product. Anything that you can do if
Oh
you're
yeah.
in the game testing, you're taking screenshots, you're taking video, throw this out there, stream, tell your friends,
And
tell your guildmates, let us know, let them know about the product so that we can help spread the word right now.
here's a note on that. I want to give you guys permission to do something that some of you are hesitant to do. If you running through the game and you come across someone's cool house, you are allowed to screenshot that. You're allowed to photograph it. You can walk around the perimeter and take a video of it. It doesn't matter if you built it, no one you know built it, or you don't even know who built it. It doesn't matter. You can take footage of it, take a screenshot, and post it. Blue Sky, X, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. Go for it. Um, Twitter's the same. I mean, Instagram. But go for it. You are free to do so. It is allowed. It is okay. No one's going to be offended. It's not, you're not stepping on anyone's toes.
If you
Can
want
I
to go a
get it?
step
Amen.
further and
Go
telling
for it.
and mentioning who the person's house is, that's cool too. You can find out by
That's neat.
walking inside the house. There's a homesteader unit. It's a little green and shiny little bulb thing, and it'll have their name projected above it. Some people hide them inside their houses. I oftentimes myself, I hide it. But some people do not. And then you can always give them claim of like, hey, I saw this cool house by so and so. That way you don't feel like you're necessarily taking the credit for them. You're showing that what it is, but you've taken the beautiful screenshot, and you should take credit for that beautiful screenshot.
Yep. 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 And it's okay if you mispronounce their name as you're giving them credit. These all's fair in love and war or whatever this is. Yeah. I too, like Turbo Archon, I am jealous of the people who can make beautiful homesteads or competent homesteads, as you said. I can't build that well, but I know that in the future, I'll be able to buy a blueprint from someone who did build a really gorgeous house, and then I'll be able to collect all the materials and go put one down somewhere for me, and that'll be my house. And I didn't design it, but it'll still be my humble abode. And I look forward to that part in game. But that's not in the current build. That's not going to come till launch. What color is the teleporter in space to get to this new planet? Ooh, Rod, do you have them all memorized?
Well, this one that you're seeing on the current stream is Zaraxis. This is our kind of desert-like planet, kind of Mars. This one is yellow, is the portal for this one. If you're more interested in going to more of a temperate kind of looking one, more of a general forest one, you'll want to go to Rodin 4, and that one can be found under green. Jungle-ish one, which is Gaiamar, is blue. Pyromyces is a dormant volcano, and you can find that under red. And then their last one is Excarion, is a white color. And if you're looking for a little tip, when you get to space, if you end up at the revive location, you look down, you'll see different colored lights at the floor. Each of those point toward the actual portals that are there for the colors that they are. So if you look off in that direction, you'll be able to see each of them by that color, except for the Excarion, because that one's almost directly above it. You'll need to look up for that one.
There's a humorous question in chat from Myron of GSF. Oh, Goonswarm. Yay, Goonswarm. How much time do you think it will be before someone builds minus tirith in the game when it releases? This cracks me up, but partly because humans did that IRL. When the Europeans first came to the North American continent, some of the rich ones copied the plans of chateau back home, in Europe somewhere, and assembled a copy of the thing in North America for them to live in. It cracks me up. So, these these kinds of things are human nature. Cracks me up. Do you have any estimates, Rod, on how long it'll take them to build something like that? A city
I
like that?
I have no idea. I mean, we're continually getting better on the building, and the players are certainly stretching the limits of some of the stuff that we're doing there. Um, so I really couldn't put a time. It depends on which people you have, but it'll definitely happen. We'll see huge builds like that happen as we allow more persistent characters. Right now, we're wiping on a every day or every few days basis, and that definitely slows things down in that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. We also don't have our guild tools in yet. That will help people work together on a project and collect all the materials and coordinate with each other. Guys, we need more marble. Guys, we need, someone get rid of all of this gravel, all that kind of stuff going on. And once those are in, people will be able to apply their energy more efficiently towards building some of these larger things.
I mean, even without those tools, we've can utilize the in-game tools we have right now. Right now, you have the ability to grant permissions on your own land claims that you have
That's
for your
right.
homesteaders, so that other people can build on your place. In addition, you have the ability to gift items to players, so you have the ability to trade things right now. So if you need to go out and get resources, you can somebody out there to go get us more marble, and they'll come back and they'll hand it to you. We definitely saw that just in the last day. We're building a little western city on the Xeraxis right now, and a bunch of us have gotten together and we just granted permissions to each other on the homesteads and kind of pre-planned where it is, and we're just going about and building from there and seeing what we can accomplish.
Yep. There's a question in chat. How will the new planets that are being discovered be named originally? Actually, um,
So we have
and yeah, tell them
a
that.
few different systems in place that we'll be using for naming planets. One of which is part of some of our Kickstarter stuff, where you're going to have the ability to name some of the planets because you actually purchase those planets. Those are going to get a little bit more specific names. A lot of our other planets are going to be procedurally generated based off of a list of different names that are qualities of the planets themselves. So we'll have various different lists of, like, a volcanic planet may have 50 different words that are kind of describing the idea of being volcanic, and we'll create a main term for it, a prefix for it, and a suffix for it, and we'll create various names that are dynamically created based off that. They also may be included with the particular solar system that they're attached to, may have some influence on those names also. So we're going to pull from various different areas for it.
And there's a question about how much variety is there in planets. But you can answer that for today, or you can answer that for launch or whatever.
Right now, I mean, we've got 4-ish, 5-ish different biomes that we basically have, showing off a few different examples of what we can do. The idea behind our planets is they're procedurally generated. So to break it down in very, very small terms, is we design various small parts of a world, for example, a canyon or a mountain or a hill face or those things, and those become small little parts. We then take a bunch of those different parts, randomize them together, and blend them together to create a planet. We create variables around that to determine what the temperature is going to be like, the hydraulics is going to be there, how much water is going to be there, what the gravity is going to be like, and several other different factors.
Yep.
We throw all that into the mixer, we mix it up a little bit, and then we produce a planet. When we do that, we actually produce, depends upon the number, but we may produce 50 of those planets that are based off of that same seed of that particular one. We're then going to have an algorithm that goes through and kind of looks at every one of the planets and determines, is this useful? Does it have weird holes in areas that just don't make sense? And we're going to throw those out. Once we've thrown those out, we'll then have a smaller list of those, and those will get thrown into a queue that we can then pull from and produce those planets and put them up at any time. But the idea of how many different varieties we can have, it's infinite, really, because of the number of combinations we can actually throw together. Will they have some of the planets be very similar? They're going to have some similarities to them, but they will have variety in those same similarities, where the planet might look somewhat similar, but has a different set of creature types that are going to be on it, or different types of foliage and flora that you'll see on it. which will make them very, very different. Due to the simulation that we have in place, you are going to see things that develop of biomes, basically. If an area has the right hydrology and the right temperature, it's probably going to produce a swamp, or it's going to produce a jungle. And it'll have those particular types of looking creatures or plants around it. But that'll certainly be interesting to see where it actually turns out. And we can tweak it at any point. That's the nice thing about having things procedurally generated and having variables around it is we don't like it, we change it. It's easy to do.
I can help you picture the mechanism of generating these new planets. There's a visual image in my mind from this, and it dates back to an old TV show called I Love Lucy, where Lucy and Ethel go to work in a chocolate factory. And the conveyor belt's coming out with pieces of chocolate on little pieces of paper, and they have to put them in the box as fast as they can. But it's going by too fast, and they're shoving some in their mouth and some in their brassiere and some in the boxes, and they're doing as fast as they can. That'll be us making new worlds. You watch. It'll be just like that. I assume custom planets from Kickstarter rewards will have some kind of approval process for naming. So we don't have things like Wiener Centauri or Mianus or something like that. Love this. Thank you. Are you also a Goonswarm member? No. Okay. Thank you, Turbo. Rod, what are your thoughts on this? How aren't they going to be in consultation with the designer each time? They're going to talk to Dave or Raph or something to make this.
The goal there when we actually have those planets is we're going to allow them to allow us to guide what that planet's going to look like in several different ways. So we're definitely going to be hands-on with that. And certainly the name is going to be an area that we're going to make sure it is politically correct and in the right situation of what we want for our game.
Something like that. I'm not sure politically correct is the right term.
Yeah, it's not the right term to use.
Socially acceptable. Socially acceptable. Okay. And then there was that was a fun question though. Then it was, can you explain how shops will work? Okay, this is really useful. Your turn, Rod. Do you want to tell them how shops work, or do you want me to?
Sure. Go for it.
Okay.
I've got an idea of what they're supposed to be, but I haven't read this document in a long time.
Okay. Me either. So I can profess ignorance and just go. So you can set up your own shop anywhere you want. It could be your house. It could be another building in your town. It could be by the side of the road. In the area where I live, you can sometimes buy tamales on the side of the road. They're fantastic. You can put it anywhere you want. They can be fancy. It can be custom built, or it could just be you standing out there telling people who walk by, hey, I have some emeralds for sale or whatever, or some furniture I crafted or whatever. You could put some examples in front of you, do whatever. While you're online and playing, you can manage your transactions yourself. You can talk to your customers. You can tell them about how great your brand is. You can negotiate prices with them or package deals, or, oh, I don't have the red one in stock, but I can have it ready for you in 2 days. You can do all that stuff. But at some point, unless you're a bot, you need to go to bed at night. And so for reasons, and if you want to continue your commerce after hours, we will have NPCs that you could hire that will stand in for you in your spot. You could tell them where to stand, and they will sell your stuff for you while you're out. Next time you log back in, it'll tell you, hi, I sold 11 of those ugly things. No, he won't say it like that, but there'll be that kind of stuff going on. You will be able to customize what the merchant says on your behalf. After all, he's representing you. So these things are important. As a marketing professional, getting all your branding and your messages correct are very, very important, people. But anyway, so the stores will operate like that. There will be no big, giant central market hub unless the players create it. like they did in EVE Online. There will be no, there may be people who come along later and say, hey, I'll buy your stuff at a discount and I'll take it over here and I'll sell it with my stuff. You know, that there might be that kind of thing going on, but it'll be player organized. I have no idea now if I've answered this. Bork the Builder, does that explain to you what you wanted to know, or what follow-up questions do you have? And we'll come back to Bork. Okay, Zamrius asks a really good question. Is each planet going to consist of just one biome, or will there be multiple biomes on a planet? I think I expanded on Zamrius's question a bit, but hopefully in the right spirit.
Trying to think of the right way to answer that question. Kind of depends what you're looking at. If you're looking at things like, are you dramatically going to see a difference in, like, say, the skybox and things like that? You're not going to see that. You're going to have one standard one that happens there. Within the world itself, depending on how we generate it, you could certainly have different biomes that show up there. But because the planet has its own temperatures and values to them, those are going to interfere with those a lot. So it's going to be very difficult to have a desert on one side of the planet and an oasis of, like, a jungle on the other side, because the temperatures just don't match up with the humidity and the amount of water and the amount of temperature. You'll be able to terraform those and actually do changes to that, and that will affect the planet and potentially change the biome that's there. But a large part of the planet will be fairly similar in what the biome is. They will definitely have different looks and feels to them as you travel through it. But we'll see. Right now, we're dealing with our 1K worlds. We're planning on increasing the size of our worlds to at least 4K by launch, which is going to make us dramatically larger. And we can probably look into how that larger size affects the amount of humidity and temperature across the world and how it affects the biomes. Because the idea behind the lore behind it is the servitors have allowed us access to certain areas of a planet. It's not necessarily the whole planet. There's a chunk of it that you have. And it's very possible that maybe the other side of the planet that they didn't give you access to has a completely different biome to it, because it is far enough away. But the area you have is probably going to be very secluded to that particular small array of biomes that are very similar to each other.
Okay.
Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, I think it did. Cubicle Lord asks an interesting question. And has some little misconception in here. Are planets going to be available to purchase even after Kickstarter? $2,000 isn't an affordable price point for a lot of people. So explain to him what claiming a planet is compared to purchasing a planet, and how that system works in the game.
I guess I'll
Or I
start with the
can.
preface on there of that, like, the purchasing the planet is the oddity among the situation. Ideally, we want planets to be owned by communities. In order to claim a planet, you're going to need to go through several different steps to actually maintain and force that claim on the planet and actually take control. There's going to be a large system that you need to go through in order to accomplish that, and that's not going to be something that's going to be very easy to do as a single player. It's going to require, unless you put a lot of time and effort into it, and you want to put a lot of time and effort to do that, it's going to be something that you need a society to do it. And that's where our government system is actually going to take place. One person ultimately will be the leader of that particular government that's there, but ultimately they're going to require to have their citizens, or their whatever they want to call them, their guild, their players that they're playing with, their society that they have, helping to develop that particular area and providing resources and ways to maintain it so that they can maintain control of that planet. Once they have that control, that's when they can actually start doing things like the civil engineering of setting up regions where people can do different types of actions and limit things and how you actually want it to be affected on the planet. That is going to be something that you're going to have to maintain, and it's going to take time and effort. So the idea of purchasing a planet is something that we did put in with our Kickstarter. Ultimately, that's not our end goal of basically saying, hey, I want to have a planet, I'm just going to go throw some money at it and buy one. That's not really our end goal. Our goal is to have players go through gameplay and actually get planets through that one. So we do have some systems we have to work around to solve the problem that, yes, we didn't originally plan to have the idea of people just purchasing a planet. And we'll have to work around those a little differently.
Yeah, it's not part of our design for the game. It's an exception we had to make a Kickstarter work, because we had never intended to do a Kickstarter. We had a different system of funding in place for this. And then we needed to respond to changing market conditions, and we did. But it's a temporary thing. We're not changing the whole way the game works in the future. So I guess the shortest answer would be no. And then let's see. In fairness, if a servitor might very well call them those ugly things. You're right. Yeah, servitors say anything, as far as I can see. Will the NPCs just be for shops, or can we have them as like a greeter to a welcome lobby? I don't see what would block them from, setting up their script to just stand there and say hello to everyone who came in.
Yeah, one of the things
Here,
that
wear
we've
this apron.
certainly aimed for is having a real world that the society is there. So we want to have players interacting as much as possible. That's not to say
Yeah.
we won't be able to have, whether it's robotic or some type of, we'll call it an NPC of some sort that is a greeter, but their interactivity will be fairly small at that point. They're mostly a furniture object that you're placing in your house. At that case, we have no intention of having like a full quest system based off of NPCs that you go and talk to certain NPC and then get a new quest to go through and do things. We want our world to be alive with players. That is our goal.
Yeah, the players will make contracts and requests of each other, and that will be part of the quest. If you log into the game and you want something to do, one of the things you can check is to see if there are any requests nearby that you could fulfill and make some money, for example, or help someone. There will be that kind of content. But eventually, if people just hire NPCs and put them as greeters in the front of their shops, they're going to end up being perceived by visitors much like a house plant or something, not real, decorative, and walk right past it and go find, what you really want. So I wouldn't get too excited about posting a servitor greeter at your front door.
And we'll
I
see.
doubt it
I mean,
will
our
work
game
all the
is
time.
evolving. We may make
Yeah.
changes in the future. It's, in my mind, as we're sitting there talking about it, things that are going through my mind is that, like, well, from a script standpoint, it's not hard for us to have a humanoid NPC that basically sits there, has a pre-scripted script that it'll do for greetings and stuff, and then while it's sitting there idle, it basically has a basic idea of like, oh, I'm going to wander over because I see a plant over there and pretend like I'm watering it, or like I'm weeding or something like that. Those are just animations and scripting behind it. It's not that hard for us to do it. The question is whether that's what we want for our vision or not. And I don't know if we really have a good answer for whether that's what we want or not right now.
Okay.
Certainly not in our current scope line.
Yep. Okay. Planets will be claimable free in game. If it'll just take effort. It'll take teamwork is what it'll take, and effort. Yeah. The planet purchase is to skip the barn raising. Yeah. Maybe not entirely for free. Somebody probably needs a property pass. Probably somebody needs a property pass to build to put a building down and etc. Thank you for the answer. Okay, those sounds like it's going to be fun to stream. Yeah, thank you. Please stream it. I'm assuming the NPCs are going to be like the ones in Ultima Online. I've always been a fan of that shopping type experience. I never set up an NPC in UO to try it. I was addicted to Meridian 59 in those days. So, but yeah.
I mean, certainly a possibility. We haven't determined what your actual visual for your shop is going to be, and it might be an NPC. It might be a computer terminal. It might be, a house plant. I don't think it'll be a house plant, but you never know. We might do it.
There will be talking house plants, right?
Perhaps.
Is streaming available at the moment? Yes. Just get into the test, and there is no NDA. Anybody can stream, post video, take screenshots, give their opinion, etc. Oh, nice. I remember Jasper. Nice, Turbo. I didn't know that. Okay, I'm assuming at the end, yeah. Sorry if this has been asked. Is the building like Star Wars Galaxies where houses are easily packed up and movable to another planet? If not like the planet they are on, meaning government. Yeah. I would say Landmark is a closer model than Star Wars Galaxies. Would you agree, Rod?
Kind of. To break it
But
down,
yes,
basically
you
our
can.
building system has two basic systems to it. One, you have to first be in a plot that you've designated as your housing location. So that is definitely going to be in place, that you're going to have a homestead and place that somewhere. Once you have that placed, you have two different ways to build. You currently can build using decor items, which will be similar to what you saw in Star Wars Galaxies, where you had all the decoration pieces that you put in. Those are your chairs, your tables, your walls, things like that. You can place those in the world, and you can interpenetrate them as you need to, and kind of decorate using those. There's also a system that is our Instaformer building, which utilizes our simulation, and that's similar. If throw other games out there, similar to like your Minecraft building, where you're building with individual blocks. You can use either one of those styles and put them together. As you can see, that's actually happening there. He's currently messing with the decor blocks. That's a corner unit that they're using, and they're standing on a bunch of the Instaformer blocks. So you'll be able to combine those together in various ways to kind of decorate however you want. The packing up idea behind it is certainly something we want to include there, because at some point there is going to be some kind of property tax or some kind of maintenance cost that you have to pay in your buildings. We also have your homesteads attached to the property pass that we have. So in situations where those particularly run out, there's going to be some kind of timeline behind it, and they will at some point decay, but we don't want to destroy all your stuff on you. So at the particular cases, we will find a way that we can pack them all into a box of some sort, throw it to your inventory, throw it in the mail, something like that, so that later when you come back and you go, oh, wait, I want to get a property pass again, I want to put a property out and I want to replace my building, you can do it. As Rick mentioned earlier, we're also going to have a system in place for blueprints. So in theory, once you've actually created your Taj Mahal and you want to encompass that whole Taj Mahal into a pattern, you could then create that as a pattern, so that if you want to make 7 of those Taj Mahals, you can paste them out, cut and paste them, as long as you got the materials and the resources to do so. And in addition, you can then potentially use that as a marketable item and sell it to other players. So if they want to have their Taj Mahal, they can. Initially, they will based off your current look, build, the pieces that you used, and any mats that to make it the look of it and feel of it. But after they place it, they'll be able to customize it and change it. So if like they didn't like the wall colors, they might want to go through and change those. They can do that. They're not married to that particular design of exactly what it is. They'll be able to rip it apart and change it and move a column over to the side if they want, or put a door somewhere else if they like. That's all part of the plan that we want for our building system. Are we there right now? Not quite. There's certainly the biggest thing that I have. I definitely spend time building in game myself. Our tools are fairly robust, that are a little complicated right now, and we're going to make them more robust. There's definitely a lot more that we want to add to our tools for your building to make them easier to use and easier to understand, and give more customization. So that was a long-winded answer.
And yeah, sometimes you may decide, I don't want to live on this planet anymore. We've depleted it too much, or something shiny got discovered over here and it just looks better. The grass is greener, etc. Or you don't like the new leadership at the political level or whatever. You should be able to. The plan is for you to be able to push a button, package up your stuff, get in your spaceship, fly somewhere else, pick a spot, put down your camp, convert it to a homestead, and then expand your property back out there again. We haven't tested it. We haven't designed it all yet, so give us a chance to get there.
I'm going to grab a question here that's by a couple different people
Go for
here,
it.
kind of combine the questions together. Both of you are
Go
kind
for
of
it.
talking about our contract systems or missions and quest systems. These are
Yeah.
things that we currently don't have in game right now. We're going to be putting in a few different stages that come in. The first stage you're going to see is a simple barter system. It's going to be a bulletin board basically that you can post saying, I would like X item and I'm going to give you Y as a reward. Fairly simple system. And it might be something as simple as I want the eyes of Newt from a particular creature, and I'm going to give you, a blaster for it. We'll see what it ends up being, but you're going to have the option to basically barter in those systems. We'll also have a currency in place that you'll also be able to use and use that as a tradable thing too. So receive item or go get item for me. I'm going to give you money. That's the simple first implementation that you're going to see. Going forward from that, we want to try to make that a little bit more complicated and add in more details of like perhaps maybe you want a whole list of items that you want. And that'll probably be the second step where we can have a list of items and I'm gonna give you these type of rewards for it. As for getting complex dungeon building type quests and stuff, I'm not saying those are off the board, but that's certainly not part of our initial scope for it. Initially, it's going to be basically that bulletin board kind of trading commerce system to start with. But again, we're aiming at trying to get scope that we can actually obtain within the period of time before launch. And then there's certainly afterwards, we hope to continue to progress the game and make it larger and more complex after that. And we'll, revisit some of those things and try to make them more complicated at that point.
I mean, I want to chime in a little bit about Cubicle Lord's question about storylines. It's because I want to point out the lore section of starsreach.com. There are stories there where short stories from the world. Raph wrote most of them. And there are storylines that don't involve the players. Yes. But most of what will be exciting about the storyline of this game will be what the players do. EVE Online is like that. There is a whole storyline with the empires and the pirate factions and all that, the Triglavians and all that stuff. It's interesting, but it doesn't hold a candle to what the players do. The players are far more interesting and have, great storylines. And you have the Histories of Eve books by Andrew Groen. Fantastic books. And they're all written on the players' storylines. And I think this game will be like that. The players will drive the narrative forward of the game, and it will be far more interesting than all the cool stories that Raph is writing in the background and other people. What's your view on that, Rod?
I mean, absolutely. The idea behind, this is kind of the vision of the game as we looked back at a lot of the MMOs that are on the market and how they've evolved over the years. And at some point, we kind of went to a point in the MMO industry where it's okay to play solo, which then ends up not really being an MMO at that point, playing solo. And we're not going to prevent people from playing solo, but we're really pushing the idea of the social aspect. We want you grouping together. We want you go out and playing together. That's why we're throwing in things like just recently in our last update, we added in the very, very start of our event system where we're announcing, a new boss has spawned somewhere in the world, throwing up a UI element telling you kind of where it is. We're trying to drive you together so that you actually go in and start playing together and start grouping and working together as a team. And we're going to continue to do that and create those stories because those are the part that are interesting. For me to go out and solo kill a dragon in some game, I felt like the hero of my own little story. But if I go out there and I'm going in with a large group of people and we fought together and we had a weird Leroy Jenkins situation that happened because of it, that creates the really cool stories that we want to tell through our MMO. And that's where we really want to push the idea.
And we're going to do things to make that easier to do. Because, for example, if you're traveling around the world and you see someone trying to fight a sky shark and you try to help them, or you shoot at it, or you heal them, or you put up a little camp for them to run back to, or whatever you do, you don't have to actually join them in a formal group to be helping them. And our system will take advantage of the fact that you're there and helping, to share the rewards or share the experience points or share what you're doing in a way that makes it less competitive and more cooperative as much as we can behind the scenes without forcing you to introduce yourself, shake hands, join a group together, and throw a whole social thing. What is he or she saying? Who is that, by the way?
This here is Guinevere. She's one of the ones that you hear quite often if you happen to join Discord and I'm in chat, because she is a little bit vocal.
That is a pretentious name for a cat. I like it. Okay.
Named after a famous cat within the D&D series.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. I got distracted for a moment, as cats are supposed to do.
To grab Tom Riker's question here, the queue system and teaming up for different content, public events and things like that, we are aiming at having a couple different systems in place there. We do want to be able to allow you to do the traditional group system where you specifically pick people that you group with and form a hard group. In that situation, you'll probably have more of a UI element to kind of show their health and things like that in case you want to do healing and things like that to make it easier and buffing. Ideally, we're also trying to do a soft grouping system, which is kind of what you're seeing a little bit in game right now because we haven't implemented the full grouping system, which allows you to, if you're in contact of the same area of the event that's going on or the NPC that you're fighting, you're going to be considered part of that particular party together. Right now, the loot is a free-for-all loot system. It just drops on the ground and everybody can grab it. Not ideal. We're going to solve that problem by making some of that loot or drops instance more so that the players themselves will each get something from that particular one. We may make a combination of that, of like, here's something that's guaranteed to go out to everybody, and then here's the unique thing that kind of drops that people can go kind of free-for-all. We'll see. We're going to play with the system. We're really big on the idea of throwing content out to the players and testing it out and seeing what you guys say and what you guys feel, because we are reacting to what you actually want. Because while this is a dream project for a lot of us that we've been trying to make and develop, we also know that you guys feel this is a dream project in a lot of ways, and we want to basically try to make all of our visions come true if we can. Are we going to please everybody? No, we're not going to please everybody. We're going to try the best we can, though.
Yeah. And we're going to have it out for you to test and give feedback on also. We're trying very hard to not develop these things all the way to 100%, just develop it to say 80%, get you to try it, get your feedback, and then take it back and polish it. We think that's a better long-term way to build each section of the game instead of just going from Raph's creative vision and all building, if that makes sense.
Going with that a little bit of like how our testing is working. For those that are familiar and have been in our tests, we got kind of a couple different groups there. We got kind of our newer testers that came in during our Kickstarter period, and we have our veteran testers. Our veteran testers are going to be able to see some of the original tests that we did where we're very focused on some of our tests. We did some tests where we literally dropped people into the game. They had one planet only. They had no tools except the ability to walk around, jump, and such, and we tested out movement. We did tests that were similar to that of various different systems as they're coming in and did very specific tests for those. We then went to a period of time when we went into Kickstarters where our goal was to basically expose ourselves to as many players as possible. So we've been inviting tons of new players in, and because of that, we started wiping our servers on a daily basis and resetting them to a kind of a pristine state so people didn't see a world that was completely ravished. And we're still kind of in that state right now. We're kind of slowly moving out of it a little bit, maintaining our servers a little bit longer, giving longer periods to play again, because we were down to 2 play sessions a day, 2 hours a day at most, and now we've extended that a little bit more. For example, today is like 7-8 hours, something like that, for our first session, and we have a second session this afternoon. As we go forward into the future, we're going to evolve more in that. We're going to go back. Initially, we're going to go back a little bit more toward some of the specific tests as we have new systems come in. And we're also going to probably slow things down a little bit when we actually drop new content, because we want to get them to that 80% mark that Rick was talking about, put it out there, and we're specifically going to have you testing out those systems. The other systems will still be available in game for the most part. There's times we may disable things. There's times we may not. But we're going to continue to do that. And that's going to lead into getting our full core game loop in place. Once we have that, that's when we're going to aim at trying to get the servers. And in the background, we're going to work on getting our server stability up, our infrastructure in a much better state than it is, so that we can get to that 24/7 and be open for early access kind of game at that point. That's going to take some time. So we're going to see some changes in how our scheduling of our playtest happen and how we handle wipes and not wipes up until that point. Once we get into early access, we'll still be during a period of time where we'll also see wipes from time to time, but they will be much less likely to happen. And that'll lead into a period of where we get to the launch of the game and the what are we, quick start? Is that what we're calling? I don't know what we're
Early
calling it.
access or head start or something like
The
that.
head start, that's the one. We'll
Head
have a head
start.
start period that's slightly before launch, gives a period of time that we allow people to get a jump into the game. But once we hit that live part, that's where we're going to hit. We're open 24/7. We don't wipe the server. Well, I won't say won't, because that's a definite. We should not ever launch this or wipe the server. Something catastrophic happens, some weird bug comes out, and everybody ends up having god powers or something like that. Yes, we will solve those problems and clear back or roll back if we have to, but we should never wipe at that point. We will be a live active game at that point. That's kind of the long testing cycle that we're going to have, to give you an idea.
And now we come down to the leaks part of our show today. So get yourself ready. Tom Riker asks, is there anything new you could share about the skill tree? Will there be a hard skill point cap? A limit on the number of professions you can actively have? How about synergies between professions? Profession X can do extra stuff when teamed up with progression Y, etc.
Yes. You looking for more of an answer than that? I mean, I don't know if any of that is really leaks. A lot of that is kind of our design of what we've talked about in the future. We plan on having a pretty robust skill tree system that's going to cover a lot of different types of professions. Those professions are going to have synergies among them. So there's certain ones that will work really well together, and there's certain ones that are going to be almost opposing each other at times. It doesn't make sense to be like if you're going to speed up or make yourself fire your gun a lot faster is like a pistolier kind of idea. Having a sharpshooter with that necessarily doesn't make sense. So those are going to be in different kind of trees. You can choose to try to do that, and it might work. It might not. I'm not sure. But that's going to be a choice for you. We are going to allow you to learn every skill in the game. It's going to take time to do it. You're going to have to get a lot of EXP, and you're going to have to do various different actions because our game does require you to not gain one particular EXP. You need to learn the type of stuff you're doing. So if you want to learn to become really good at mineralogy, you're going to have to go out and dig. But you want to be good at combat, you're going to have to go out and do combat. So we will diversify those by different types of EXP. So now you've got all the skills in the game. We're not going to let you be a god character that basically do every single thing that you can. You're going to have to pick and choose which of those are currently active. Once you have those active, that creates your active skills that you have. Your other ones are still there, but in order to learn them again, you will need to unlearn something you have and relearn those ones. And there will be a time delay in between doing that. So you can't just go to a camp and instantly change between those fully unlearned ones and your current learned ones. If we then look at the
not really unlearned and relearn, it's actually more like fall out of practice and remind yourself of it. It's not as much work as relearning it. It's not. Okay.
Yeah, you won't have to go out and get the experience to actually relearn it again, or put it in practice. We'll use that word.
Yeah. I can't remember what we're calling it.
So once you then have those in place, you have your active ones that you have available to you. You then need to pick and choose the tools and stuff that you're actually going to utilize to work with those skills. So if I've skilled myself out as a medic of some sort, a lot of different healing perks and skills behind it, I'm going to want the tools in place to actually do that. And that goes what goes on your hotbar. Your hotbar then is I'm picking these tools to take out and go adventuring with. We want you to have to make that choice and that decision as you're going out to adventure. What am I going to focus on and be? And that's kind of determined by that particular part of the tool belt and the tools that you use. The synergy that you're going to see among your own tools and skills kind of depends upon what your direct damage and direct abilities do. The synergy you're going to see with your teammates is potentially different, like elemental attacks and stuff. So, for example, if you were to say freeze a creature and then have somebody else that is really designated toward fire, they may have extra damage being done to that particular creature because of the fire attacks. So we want to create synergies like that within the combat system. Our combat system is very inherent of old arcade games and more of that predictable combat that's happening, but not a predictable sequence of events that you have to do it. You want to be able to see, like an example I would say is think of Contra. If you're familiar with the old game of Contra, you run into a boss. There's a boss that you get to. It has various different stages that you may have to go through, and there's steps that you may have to do in that combat and ways to interact with those. And you want to try to, as a group, work together to solve those problems and figure out the mystery of that particular creature and how to defeat it, instead of having a script that you often see in some of our traditional MMOs that you see on the market right now, where the tank has to do this one particular action and the healer has to do a particular one at a certain time. We want to try to prevent that a little bit and make it a little bit more spontaneous. And I'm just rambling at this point, so I'm going to stop talking.
Knock asks, what are some of the more unique professions in this game? And that's always a fun thing to talk about. I think journalist is my favorite to bring up on that. But I was a journalist before I got into game dev. Other things,
I'm trying to think of good ways to answer that question. I'm like thinking through them, because we have the interesting thing with it is that while we sit there and say the word profession, we're not locking you into those professions. It's all skill based. So you basically make that determination of what they're going to be and what you want to be. So if I choose that I want to be a healer, I'm going to choose to have skills and stuff that are focused on healing. But I may also be a sharpshooter at the same time. So I have a couple different dual roles I can have. You're not being locked into, I'm going to be a cleric and only a cleric at any time. While we are certainly going to be looking at the aspect of your traditional trinity of, combat that's going to be there, you're going to have people that want to be tanks, people that want to be clerics or healers of some sort, your damage dealers. You're going to be able to focus your skill set into that and determine what that profession is. And on the side, you're also going to have some social ones. The ones like Rick mentioned there is the journalist. Again, that's going to be skill-based systems, but it basically puts you into a system where you're potentially a news anchor, kind of, not necessarily a news anchor, but more of it focuses on your Twitch streaming or things like that, social aspects, so that it gives you the additional abilities to do things. Some of the goals that we want to be able to have is potentially like a camera that you can fly around to actually film things, the ability to have not a bulletin board, but like a news network that's broadcasted out to all of the different players that are out there, and you potentially can produce your own articles or stories about things that happened and present those to different players, whether it be through in-game or even out of game potentially.
I mean, what's the difference between a stand-up comic and a teacher?
I don't think there is.
It's the content you're providing and the window dressing around it and what you call yourself. And this game is all about kind of what role you create for yourself and what you call yourself, just like IRL in a lot of ways. What's the difference between a journalist and a live streamer? It's window dressings and decoration, and what kind of content you provide and how you present yourself. A lot of things are like that in this game. We're not going to require you Dungeons and Dragons style to decide I'm a thief and that's my profession, and now I get to learn acrobatics and gymnastics and backstabbing. No. There is no narrow role definitions. You are what you make of yourself in a landscape where you can learn any skill you want as long as you start at the bottom of the skill tree, etc. You can feel free to ask follow-up questions in chat here. And for those of you who are watching a recording of this later, we're recording this on Thursday morning, the 20th of March, spring equinox. Although it might be the fall equinox if you're in the southern hemisphere. Anyway.
Tom
and
Rucker asks about our communication with players on other planets. We currently have a /tel system that only works within the zone that you're currently in, so only the planet you're in. We do plan on having communication systems that go across worlds. The questions that we're going to pose there is there a delay in things like communication across worlds? We don't know the answer to that yet. That potentially might be something that you have to actually deal with. So we'll kind of determine how that system's going to be placed once we actually have it. Initially, we'll probably give you, the ability to do a direct tell kind of thing across the planets, but we may make some gameplay around that. We'll see. Yeah, that's kind of where the communication is right now. And we do have right now game, you'll see general spatial speak that is basically done is pretty much across the zone that you're in, the planet you're in. We also have bubbles that appear above your head. Those are a little bit more spatial orientated. You'll see those about 64 meters off of your player. And then there is the tell system that you can send a private message to individuals.
And more coming. But yeah, we do have some communications systems planned for the future. On the by planned, I mean on the roadmap, but not yet fully designed and not yet implemented. Oh, we're running out of time. Rod and I need to be in a stand-up meeting in 4 minutes. Not that that's any pressure or anything. 3 minutes. Okay, so first of all, I want to say thank you to Lyric Dax for playing the game for us in the background quietly and occasionally rolling his eyes quietly. I want to say thank you to Thomas, who is our engineer, who's running the show here, and whom I just warned we have 3 live streams next week, so he's going to be very busy. In fact, you're going to get to meet him. On Thursdays, we're doing these developer interviews, and next Thursday, you're going to meet Thomas, the new guy on the team. So that will be fun. He's muted at the moment, but he's running a lot of stuff at the moment. I want to say a big thank you to Rod, who's a player favorite and a minor celebrity in the Stars Reach universe. Thank you, Rod. Yay for lending your star power to this show.
If we're throwing out thank you, I want to throw out there is for our testers. You guys have been great. You guys are really helpful in finding bugs for us and working with us to actually solve those problems. And the testers that have been around a long time are incredible for helping out our new players. You guys are really good. You saved me a lot of time, and I thank you a lot for that.
And if you want to hear more of Rod's voice, just join the next playtest and jump on comms. Poor Rod. All right, thank you very much. We're going to have to wind down now. Thomas, if you want to raid someone, go for it. And thank you all. Oh, we are raiding. Yeah, we're raiding Knock. How cool. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.